Hey everybody, I'm Hans, and today I'm going to be streaming about DFINITY Internet Computer, and we're going to hack together a blog. So one thing I wanted to do is create a simple blog engine, create an app over a series of multiple episodes with like a continuity, and showing up like breaking changes and the latest news of the DFINITY computer. And so what we thought was a good example of an app is to build a blog engine. So something like WordPress, maybe simpler for now, and then we'll add capabilities as we go, like administrators, comments, those kind of things. But for now, we'll just concentrate on making the blog engine itself in a decentralized way. So first, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's new. We just released this week DFINITY, the DFX 052, and it comes with a little bit of improvement, a couple of new features. For example, we added a new candid interface to interact with your canisters. So a little bit like a debug interface. We'll see. We'll use it. And then we changed some of the values in JavaScript. For example, option is not null anymore if there is no option, and if there is an option, it's not a value anymore. If it is basically an array with one element, and if there's none as a value, it's an empty array. And the reason is because it was impossible in JavaScript to represent options of options of options of options, which, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's nice to know which option actually returned none. The other thing is we added the Effects Bootstrap. We're still designing that one. It's a little bit alpha, but essentially it starts a web server. If you have your replica running on another machine, or if you have your replica running like already, you're not using DFX start, you can now have a Bootstrap server running for your replica. And the last thing that we really added is you can now use, when you install, you can now specify the compute allocation, so how much priority a canister should have over other canisters, basically. It's the equivalent of setting CPU allocation if you've been working on cloud software before. In a development environment, you might want to use this option to test if you have an application that has multiple canisters, for example. You might want to switch the compute allocation between canisters. So this is useful in that way. Lastly, just bug fixes. We found a bug in SLEB. In our SLEB implementation, we fixed it, and we removed Node Manager, which was restarting the replica all the time. And now, basically, we are restarting the replica. DFX itself is going to be managing the replica, so it should be a little bit easier to kill and manage itself. All right. There is a few breaking changes in this release. Motoko has removed definitions for debug print, ABS, and range from the default scope. You have to import them from the Motoko standard library now. Float support in the Motoko programming language. Although it recognizes floats right now, there are some limitations because it has to be deterministic, and floats are not deterministic by design. So we are working on that, but you should avoid the float data type if you can. It comes with a big red flag of alpha. And using fixed length word data type arguments are not yet supported in DFX. So fixed word 32 data types. So if you pass if you pass a word32 to the to your canister, you might have trouble. What you can do is you can convert integers to word32. There are standard library functions for that. Until we support fully like word32 and nat32. The full release notes are in our SDK website. I never remembered them, but they are there. Oh yes, I almost forgot. Let me switch here to my developing. Oh, I need to scrub that at some point, but yeah. So, sorry, I'm just looking. Size, blah blah blah. Crop. There you go. So you should see me disappear. I'm gonna put 200 right away. There you go, and I'm gonna move myself a little bit to the right. There you go. So yeah, we got a new SDK website. It's awesome. We worked on it. Our documentation team worked on it really, really hard. It's great. I love it. It's a lot of. It's way better structured. We actually have like proper images this time. There is a little bit like I think you could copy too, but like this is nice. At some point we'll put better highlighting in there. But yes, so you got like inside the page you got like a table of content, and then you got the developer center full content here. And so if you go to, let's go to SDK, you can see release notes alpha 5. Release note in 052. Okay. So what we're gonna do this week, what we're gonna start with is a new blog engine that we're gonna call Journey, because I don't have a better name for it. If you guys have better names, it's easy to change. Submit your ideas, and we'll try not to copyright infringe anybody. But this is experimental. Okay, so that's awkward. We should definitely not do that. But oh yeah, I wanted to reproduce that bug yesterday. That's funny. I was trying to see if I could fix it, and well, I could not reproduce it. It's basically two spinning progress bar on top of each other. So you guys are familiar with this screen. We basically just created a new Journey project using the effects. It has all the goodies that we're used to. This hasn't changed yet. And I am running idea as my choice of apparently software that blocks my screen a little. Okay. So I think I found why this is causing problems. It's always with the markdown support not working properly. So I'm gonna try again, and I'm gonna just, if it doesn't work, we'll go back to code. There's nothing wrong with code. I'm just used to IntelliJ. This reminds me of the first episode where this happened for like 15 minutes. Okay, so this seems slightly better. All right, there you go. Okay, so we got our node modules, we got our dfx.json, all stuff that we're used to. The funny part is that this is all default stuff now, so we don't even need it. The only thing that we need is the canisters key, and So to keep it simple, because we will have multiple canister in here. And the Motoko, so we still don't have syntax highlighting for Motoko in IntelliJ. There's keep your eyes out for the VS Code plugin that is coming soon. And yeah, this is gonna be have like syntax highlighting. This is gonna have this is gonna have syntax highlighting and like compiler errors and all the good stuff. It's gonna come out soon on the Visual Studio Marketplace, but for now we're using IntelliJ without even using code. I should probably zoom a little for you guys watching from afar. Okay, so like I said, this is a standard project. As you remember, if you followed along, like canisters are imported in JavaScript like this. The default behavior is to just greet. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our data types started. Sorry, I have a little bit of notes here. So we're gonna do a types.emma, which is a module, oops, and will contain a hash. Sorry, this is okay. No, actually, yeah. This is gonna take, so this is gonna create a, we're not gonna use a hash, it's gonna be a list, sorry. stdlib/list, standard stuff. And now we're just gonna public type. And so it's gonna be a blog entry. And the blog entry is gonna have an other. So we're gonna get a public type author, which is gonna have a name, which is text. And probably some kind of ID, which is a word 32, I guess. I'm not sure. This keeps changing a lot. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and look at the linked up example, because I know linked up did the right thing there. Don't forget, guys, there is nothing wrong with copy pasting code as long as you understand the code you're copy pasting. All right, and type blog list is a list. I'm just skipping a step here because it's just entry, really. Standard list. Actually, I should probably not do that. So blog list is probably better, but entry is fine. And another is another. Of course, a short description. So the reason we're gonna have a short description and a content. So normally when you implement, I'm gonna comment this, so the person who created the entry. So yeah, we'll have a way to keep like the list of editors. The description from the front page for the blog and for this entry. So, and the content of the blog entry. In Markdown, we're gonna go fancy. So, The problem here that we're trying to do is that we're trying to avoid using back-end computations, right? So when we're trading basically CPU for memory here. This is the first paragraph of the content. It is kept in memory to avoid loading the content and cutting it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this, and you'll see like I'm kind of like this is a leading question basically, but essentially what we're doing here is we want a short description, which is the first paragraph of the blog, and so what we're trading here, what we're trying to do is when we're creating a new entry, we'll just cut the first paragraph and store it with the rest, right? So this is a classic. This is what WordPress does. This is what Ghost does. This is essentially what everybody does right now. And the reason is that, well, when you have a database, like calls to the database can be expensive. So you want to select the short description if you don't need the full content. Getting the full content can be expensive in bandwidth, and then the front end server, the server, the middleware server, the proxy or whatever, will cut off the content, like the first paragraph, and then give it to the user. Like you do that for the first page. Let's say you have 10 blog entries in the first page. You get essentially 10 times the content. Let's say every blog is a 1K. So 10K of bandwidth, and then you have to store it in memory, you have to cut it, and then you have to show it. So the way you do that is when you create a new blog entry, you create the first paragraph, which could be like, I don't know, 200 characters, so 200 bytes. I'm like making up numbers here. It's definitely more than 1K per blog entry. But essentially, the short description is stored alongside the description, so that alongside the content, so that when you fetch the front page, you only select short description from the top 10 blog, and so you save on bandwidth because 10 entries times 200 bytes is 2 kilobytes. Now, I've been talking about databases, and one thing that I always say when I'm talking in public or on this stream is that, well, you don't need a database, right? Because your memory is your memory. What you got in memory is what you need in memory. There's no database call, there's no update or insert. So essentially you get so essentially you get everything in memory, and so you don't need to do database calls. And you so because you don't need database calls, you don't really care about this, because you don't save bandwidth because it's in your memory already. If we were to store this, and we'll come back to it later, but if we were to store this to another canister, we might want to do a short description field again, so that when we ask for the short description, we only get it. But even that is not really how this system works. When you do a query call, because like getting the front page does not update the memory. When you do a query call, it's basically instantaneous that you are running the code that basically does a call, and that code can actually cut it. It's not something that's complicated. It's not something that takes a lot of computation power. So really, like this whole model, we need to rethink how we do things in this whole model by cutting out the short description, because really we don't need it. We might want to avoid doing a regex to look where the first paragraph cuts. But that's very different than having a short description. Maybe we want to do like a short description break, which is of type, I don't know, nat. But even that, I mean, we should not optimize for the use case that we don't know yet. So I'm gonna just remove that. If at some point in the future, like, I don't know, like this is probably like a year project, but if at some point in the future, like we decide like, well, we're calculating gas, we're calculating CPU usage, we found out that taking this is the most expensive operation, then we can go back and revisit exactly how we do this. But for the moment, yeah, we can just, find first \n and just take the content from it as the short description, and we'll do just that. So let's just give a nickname to the other. The other author. I'm always a little bit. And so yeah. So apparently some people are on mobile, which I find awesome, but also disturbing at the same time. I don't know how my face looks. But yeah, if I put myself in presentation mode, it's gonna be a little bit bigger. Okay. So we have our types here, and ID is a hash according to linked up, but really, like, let's just make it a nat for now. Like, not even like we're not doing anything particularly expensive right now. And we just want to see something that people can read and write, right? So, function greet, we don't want any of that. We're not greeting anybody, although we are, but not in the same way. So, public func. Right. So, the first thing you want to do is essentially figure out what your variables are, and like I said, like the concept, like I said in previous entry, the concept of memory in a canister is essentially all your global memory is persisted between calls. Thanks. Yeah, that's a nice haircut. And so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna set a variable. Okay, so I'm gonna cheat again because I'm a cheater, but you guys don't get to. So I'm gonna alias those types. I'm not even gonna bother about that really, but yeah. So var entries. So let's cut this in F and put this here. There you go. So var entries is a types blog list. Is of type blog list and is basically a I don't remember that, but I think it's list new. I'm not sure. We have a compiler, and the big advantage of having a compiler is that like we'll see if that compiles. So new entry will take in other, which is a text, and we'll take an entry. And so I'm abstracting a little bit too much here, really. Like we don't need other list. We'll add that a little bit later when we add capabilities. Maybe today, actually. It looks like I'm not gonna have time, but maybe. So author and content, which is really, and this returns nothing because it either works or it doesn't, and if it doesn't work, we'll just ignore it. List. I wonder if I can do this. Blog list push entries, and then so let entry equal other content and entry. Here you go. All right, so let's try to build this. Oh, okay. So let's try to build this. Okay, so unexpected token 10, 19. Yes, okay. I thought I remember that we could shorthand this, but apparently we can't. 27, 28. That's the mailman. Types. Okay, so like I said, it's useful to have a compiler, and I'm oh yeah, you know, my mistake here was I'm coding too much in Rust lately, so this is a database types, not a database, a dictionary type or a map type. You know, many languages have different names for it. Unbound type list. 13, so this thing. Okay. Oh yes. Of course, it's the module is list, not list, so. Okay. All right. Okay, so return an error. Is to say, field block list does not exist in type module. Oh, because it's not. No, it is public block list. Huh. Oh, toffee. Okay. Okay, let's see if that helps. Unbound variable block list. Okay, so I go to my favorite Stack Overflow, which is the linked up. Which is the linked up repo. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do to have less of a little craziness for you guys. And then, okay, so I still have unbound variable, and this is because of block list here everywhere. Oh boy. I'm gonna try. Okay, so this is. I'm upgrading as much as I can, guys, but like. I'm gonna try to filter low level noise. Noise gate. Okay, let me check if that's better. That's my gardener that is doing like the worst job ever because I told him not to come on Thursdays. But I'll hopefully. Okay, is that better? That sounds better. A little bit better. Let's see. Always something. Okay, so I'm gonna keep an eye. I'm gonna keep my headphones on. Ears, but hopefully I can maybe catch him. You guys can hear him, please. Okay, so we got type block list here. Got type entry here, which is this is of type N. So there you go. Unbound type. Oh yes. I don't judge. I did not practice this yesterday. And so I'm gonna go ahead and get oh my god. Sometimes you just look at it. It's like, you know, sometimes you just look at something too many times and then you forget, like, you know, when you say a word over and over, it stops making sense to you. It's that way. Okay. It should be there. What the new errors are. Unbound variable block list. It is a block. We don't need it like on here. We need. We're just gonna do type. But I'm not. I might be like, yeah, I might be. Type field array does not exist. So if you want to see, we talked about this in the first episode, but if you want to see the standard library, it is available on your computer here. And oh, array is the utility model. That's why. That's probably not gonna. So you can find it in your home folder in the cache and AT versions 052 stdlib. If you do the FX cache show, it will show you that folder, and then you just basically happened running. works. Okay, so I think unbound variable block. Maybe if I just that insert type of variable author text, not sure what. Okay, I'm gonna go to my other favorite repo that we talked first one, which is the phone book example. This is funny. I have a lot easier time working with the oh, there you go. I think I can't. Yes, I remember this. I think I'm not sure if this is entirely. Yeah, there you go. Plug list is not good. Yeah. And it's not push. It's I'm sorry. There you go. And can I put this? Yes, that's because this returns an. I have to ignore the result. Ignore is a keyword, and I see. Append to append to arrays together. They're a push. No, it is not. I'm not. There could be a. There could be a better way to do that. Like for example, if I do entries equal. But I'm not going to look at it because I want to discover at the same time as you guys. Honestly, like for somebody who's working on the SDK, this is like my Motoko is rather rusty. There you go. Okay. So this is fully expected in the sense that I changed the Motoko, but I did not change the front end. So the front end is using a bunch of calls that make sense. Okay. There's no greet. Unresolved method greet. Entry is there, and there's a function that receives two texts and return nothing. Like in your output directory, in your build directory, all of this is there. Oh, I know what I did. There is still one default that needs to be there, and I know it's still there. I'm so sorry about that. So there is still one default that needs to be there, is the output, because otherwise build folder is going to be output, and that thing. I'm going to move the mic a little bit closer to me, so you guys might hear less. Okay. So yeah, that will be fixed soon. Well, at least you guys don't seem to hear it. The filter seems to be working, so that's good. Okay. So rather than just creating a front end right now. We're just gonna ignore this and get something working on the command line first and see if our new function works. Oh yeah, that's kind of useless though. Our new function is kind of useless. So because, like, I mean, we are creating new entries, but we're not returning them. So let me make sure that I'm doing the right thing. That it's a query func and not func query entry. Not a new entry, but get. Well, we don't have post IDs, so that might actually be a problem. So ID, it will be a net. How to identify this entry. Okay. And what we're gonna do is var unique ID equal 0. It's a natural. Be very increasing. So so unique ID plus, then ID is first get ID net async. Okay, and then we're gonna do we're gonna find. So we're gonna do list array. Is there a find function? Yes, there is. It takes a predicate and an array. Find of entry, and then the predicate is the func. Oh, there's a way to do this. I just never remember. There's a way to do lambda. Essentially, is EQ entry equal ID 0. So is EQ of the entries. Right? Everything makes sense? Everything doesn't build. Unexpected token semicolon. Because I forgot. This is at the right. Public. It's this. When you, it doesn't matter if there is no ambiguity between statements, but when there is, you need. When there is no ambiguity, when it's the last statement of something, you don't have. There you go. Cannot produce expression of type. Okay, so this one is a little bit more mysterious to me. Expression of type option. Oh, I see. Yes, it should be an option. So this is optional. So there you go. Yeah, because we don't know if we're gonna get it right. Could be none. And okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start our replica here. And yeah, so you know how I said the defaults? That was in master. Apparently we do need defaults here. Just kidding, because it's something that I really want to fix. DFX.json should not be that big, basically. Side. And it's harder to understand. Okay, so it started. We can do canister install journey. Okay, so that looks like it worked. We created a new checkpoint here. We're in 6 million. Very good. Everything is going fine. Gonna go. All right, it seems like the garner is done, so I'm gonna put this back a little bit. Then so get and get 0 should return. Oh yes, get 0. None. Okay, so there's none, but then new entry. Hello world. So author content. So this is a tuple. Arguments are passed as a tuple. This is a tuple that I'll need control number, and this is a tuple that adds. So we pass text. Seemed to work. Good. If I do 0, it's because we increment unique ID first, so it's going to be the. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the way this returns stuff. So this is candid. This is what we call candid, actually. This is a way to represent IDL, which is the wire format. If you're not familiar with wire formats, it's basically like encoding. How do we encode structured data, structured type on a in a binary, an actual binary format, a mathematical concept. So essentially, text is a mathematical concept. We don't necessarily have, a text can be any kind of characters. It can be Chinese. It can be like numeric. But the way we actually encode text on the wire is using UTF-8 is one way. Unicode, basically. And this is basically the wire format dictates those things. So we created a wire format for Motoko. For obvious reason, not every type could be represented in on the wire, for example, with like existing format like protobufs, for example. Protobufs is a good wire format, and so we needed like a new definition language, which is IDL. The definition language look like this. So this is our main. It has a type entry, which is a record, which means basically a record is basically a map of string to data, to anything. And in this case, it's string to text, author, content text, ID nat, which is natural number. And we define a service, which is our actor, which has a function get that takes a natural tuple and returns a optional entry. And it's a query function. And then we have the function new entry that takes 2 text and return. So this is basically our IDL. The way Candid is the textual human readable version of this. And this is basically a Candid result. So as you can see, it's an optional record. If it was none, that just means that it's optional, but it doesn't have a value, so we don't know the type, because none is typeless. But optional as a type, which is the type of the value itself, the type is a record. Well, the value is the type is a record, and this is so ID. I'm just gonna go through it a little bit quickly here, but ID, hello world is the content, and Hans is the author. So the reason these are numbers is because in order to save space on the wire, we don't actually encode the string itself. Because, like, if I go back to my definition here, actually back to the types itself. So ID is 2 letters. It would be in UTF-8. It would be three bytes. But like this can be represented with 16 bits, and so 2 bytes. So we save a byte here. Author would be like 7 bytes in UTF-8. This is 32. Like this is, so it's 4 bytes. And content would be 8 bytes. And this is still 4 bytes. So we're saving a lot of space by encoding them as numbers. It's a hash formula that minimizes. So the formula that we're using is, as there's a white paper for it. We have a link in our internal document, but when we open source IDL, like it's going to be properly and defined properly. But essentially, it minimizes the collisions in English texts while still having like less than fully. But that doesn't mean that there is no collision. So just to be clear, like there could be collisions. It's just that the risk of collisions is super low. Then like if you face a collision, it's like you basically just won the lottery. So this is low enough that we judge that the savings were worth the risk, actually. Okay. So let's see. So we got our type here, which is perfect. What I'm going to talk a little bit about is Candid. Yes, I wanted to talk about Candid. So we got our canister ID, which is the IC color. And essentially, so this is our loading page. You guys might see it. Okay, yeah, there you go. Could not find canister. Now we got the Candid here, which takes the canister ID. Main page. But normally should have a proper not found. Oh, it didn't. Because it should be. Or should it be Bootstrap? Yeah, it's Bootstrap, and the reason is because I messed up with my cache while logging. I'm gonna reinstall my cache. If you that normally, well, end users should never have to do that. People who develop DFX itself can use the DFX cache delete and DFX to reinstall their cache. Now, if I do this, there you go. So now we see essentially what like Candid looks like. It's rough. We're improving on it. We have like multiple PRs already that will improve on it. But essentially, I can query using more or less like the UI. So this is but okay. Well, there's still some bugs here. Hello. Oh, it's supposed to be Jason? There you go. Entry, hello world. Took 1 second. And use this for type now. Yeah. But I created a, well, some bugs. I'll talk to the person who did stuff. But actually, I have a hello world here. I still have my, of course, I still have my ID1, which is this one, which is the first one created called new. Okay, so this was it for today. We got about 3 minutes left. Type entry. So what we did, oh, we're gonna talk a little bit about these big numbers. I want them gone really quickly. I have a way of doing that soon. Do that soon, but essentially, like, these are temporary files created during compilation. You'll see them when you have errors in your so if I have an error in my Motoko, it might create one of these and then fills it. And the reason that we need these is because we have we add a query function right now for your canister for the assets. So your index.js would end up in here. So that's interesting. So if I do console.log 3, and then I do, and then I make a mistake. There you go, that's a mistake. Then I do DFS build. There should be a new one of these, or maybe it's a certain type of mistake. I think it's a certain type. Let's remove this. Yeah, there you go. It's a type error, not a syntax error. So yeah, this is interesting because it's what I've created this in the first place. But yeah, basically, like, you would see like a case index.js here, then the value. And we do this right now, so because the goal is, of course, to get the assets as part of the canister in the system itself and not as part of the canister's code. But we're kind of forced to do this right now because we don't have a solution for canister assets, which will be coming in the next few months. I mean, this is something that we're working on, but in order to unblock part of the SDK, and in order to bind your canister with your actual code, this was the hack that we implemented. So your front end code. So when you build a front end and when you do, like, when you run, you know, here it's not going to show anything because I stopped the effects. But in a sense, the index.js and everything assets related, all the images and everything is part of your canister, and it's encoded inside by the compiler inside your main.mo that has the and that's why you see those files with like big numbers after, because we generate a random number to make sure. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any questions. So far we created the backend for it. We created for our blog that we're going to call Journey. The code is going to be available in some repo. I'm not sure exactly if it's going to be DFINITY /journey or DFINITY lab /journey or something else. Might be under my name, but in any case, it will be in the description on the YouTube and in the description on Twitch. So thank you, everybody. If you have any questions, you can reach me on Twitter. I'm gonna I'm gonna do another. Get good at this. Hey. So yes, you can join me on my Twitter. It's here. There you go. Left and right are complicated. It's like you're seeing yourself in the mirror when you look at that. So, so yes, so my Twitter is there. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on there, or feel free to come to our forum, forum.definity.org, and talk to us. We love sharing information. We love talking about this. We believe that that this is a great product, and we want to create a great community outside around it. All right, so this is it. Thank you, and see you in 2 weeks. We're going to start some front-end UI in 2 weeks.